Boom. We appear to be live. Yeah, we appear to be live, as you usually say. YouTube shows me as live this time, so I shouldn't be missing like several seconds of the start of the stream, or like minutes even. Hopefully. We'll give it a little checkerino in a hot second. Oh, I already don't remember when I played this last time, or where, like, what the status was, so... Pardon. I'm, a little distracted, perhaps. Perhaps a little tired, perhaps a little exhausted. Perhaps, the whole reason why I'm streaming again is because I'm going insane and I need to get some stuff, spoken into the ether in order to arrange them in my head. Because there's a reason for why the title is like this. It's like the window... It's a concept I read in a book. I think it was called Don Camillo. It's like a series of books about a priest and a communist in like communist France, I think. Perhaps, or like Italy, probably, actually, now that I think about it again. It's like, I don't remember the context exactly, but at some point in there... Oh, I died here last time, oops. At some point in there, there's this phrase, it's like, he felt like somebody that just opened a window into infinity, like, window onto infinity. I read it in Polish, so it's like a little... The translation is not exact, but... The phrase basically is... I found it very relatable, because I get the feeling, which is, to like explain it in more depth, it's, I don't know if you have the experience of facing something that's just incomprehensibly complex, I think is the way to visualize that. It's like, the world we actually live in. Okay, let's run through the thought experiment that kind of brought me to the point I'm at with this. It's like what does it mean to actually know things, right? Because you would say you know a bunch of things, and you know about how something functions, etc., etc. It's like, I guess for me the easiest like, actual example to go with would be computers, but I don't know how relatable that would be. It's like, do you understand how to cook? It's like, well, you probably understand, you know, how to make certain dishes. You probably understand in general how to modify those dishes into, like, so they taste better, also they like appeal to your particular taste. It's like, if I want this to taste more, then, well, it's perhaps not the greatest metaphor because I don't know terminology to actually explain it, but it's like, oh, if I want this to taste more sweet, it's like I can add sugar, or like if this tastes bland, I can add salt, because salt makes things taste, brings out the taste of things, so you can add salt. So on that level, it's like fairly easy to get to a level of understanding that's enough to actually do things and like get stuff done. You can quite, well, maybe not easily, but you can generally achieve that level without incredible trouble, right? But then like you could say then, if you get good at making those dishes, you could say that, oh yeah, I'm good at cooking, and I like. Well, then could you actually say, for example, I understand cooking? Because to me, and what I'm trying to get at is, once you leave like the heuristics and your ability to do certain things reliably, it's like, oh, do you actually understand it though? And I don't mean to demean people that do have the understanding, because you obviously can understand it to the level that it is usable and reliable. But I mean on the level of, do you understand what exact processes actually go on when you mix ingredients, and how chemically does it work and how it interacts with your taste buds? And then if you want to go further with that to illustrate the concept of like runaway complexity, it's like, now it's like, okay, it tastes good to you, but does it taste good to everyone? It's like, what's the correlation between what kind of person actually enjoys that taste, and how is that correlated with other things? Like, how could you solve this, like, chemically? Could you resolve who this is going to taste good to? They collect this? Yes. So the point being that, and I don't know how uncomfortable to other people this realization is, but if you like really think about how much we actually know, it's not that much. As in, okay, so like what would we consider things that we know kind of for certain? It's probably things that have scientific evidence, right? Like we have scientific proof for something, and that something is considered, that something is then considered something we know. But then, if you get down to it, like scientific evidence is, it's like it's somebody did something, right? Somebody did something, and I don't mean to like belittle it, but the idea is that somebody did something and noted the results. So again, we have a bunch of knowledge that is reproducible. It's like, okay, not only did somebody do that, actually many people did that, and we figured out a rule that is reliable, and if you apply the rule, it works out in reality when you actually do these things. That's like, okay, that's established knowledge. But then the question is, if you have established knowledge, then it's not really your knowledge, as in, well, is it really? It's not like it's not your knowledge. It's different than actually knowing things from experience, and you know, you have to trust somebody that relied the knowledge to you. I don't know how to exactly describe the difference, but there's clearly there's of course a lot of benefit to outsourcing, gathering knowledge, and being able to actually rely on other people to get information for you and learning from that. It's like a tremendous amount of benefit that stems from this idea, this concept. But I think the general idea I'm getting at is, I think humility is, I'm very roundaboutly trying to say that I see a lot of people that very confidently claim things that they don't actually know. Okay. Oops. And I think the example I'd use might be a little controversial, or like, I hope I don't butcher explaining this, but if you consider the flat earth theory, right? It's like, it's obviously ridiculous. We have a tremendous amount of evidence that the earth is not actually flat. There's like whatever debunks, there's scientists that have come up with the exact idea for why the earth is not flat, etc, etc. So you can understand a lot of these things, right? And you can kind of, you know, you can use them, you can listen to that, and you can claim it's like, oh, the earth is not flat, these people are obviously stupid. As like, because I understand the evidence, and I understand what reality is, and I understand what we're talking about, and from that I like arrive at the conclusion that no, the earth is obviously, well, obviously, from the things I've seen and from what I understand, there's no way the earth could be flat. And that is quite different from if you say that, oh, the earth is obviously not flat, everybody knows that. It's like, hold on. Right? Because do you actually know why the Earth is not flat? Or do you know that it is what you should think? Right? Do you actually know? Do you have the knowledge? Can you explain it? Can you understand? Do you understand it? Or is it something that you know you should think, and then there's not actually that much difference between you and the people who believe in the flat Earth? Not on the sake of, not on the front of being correct, because, you know, it's like you have correctness. Like, the Earth is still not flat, regardless of how you fail to argue. It doesn't matter, the Earth is still not flat. But on the front of, like, the way you comprehend and the way you process information, that's what I mean. It's like, do you actually understand? Do you have the knowledge? I'm running a little bit in circles, but I'm trying to get at the idea. Like, is it actually something you know and understand and choose? Or is it something that, you know, this is something acceptable to point and laugh at, but you don't actually understand, but you are very smug about, you know, being better than the people who believe in the flat Earth? It's something like that. Okay, so how did I start on this whole tangent? Oh, it's like, okay, it's like, how hard is it to know things? Because in order to actually understand in order to actually understand something, you need to spend a lot of time, right? It's like, you can learn things without really understanding them, and to a certain level, like, for certain things you don't need to understand things on, like, a deep fundamental level, right? It's like, you don't require, and like with the cooking example from before, like, you don't need to be able to cook to some, like, incredible. You don't need to understand chemistry and all the processes that, you know, go on when you cook food in order to cook food, because you can get pretty good at cooking without any of that, right? That's not what I'm trying to say, but if you wanted to very confidently discuss that this is how you cook things, and this is how it should be done, and this is how it works, then, because that's an inherently, it's a humble position. It's only a humble position because humbleness is like being in line with reality, with what you claim, right? Because it's not humble to, it's like there's such a thing as fake humility, where you, like, debase yourself and claim to be worse than you actually are. You claim to be worse than you actually are in order to fish for compliments, right? That's fake humility, and that is not being humble. And the idea here is that if you do have the knowledge and you can confidently state that yes, this is wrong, this is stupid, this is just incorrect, I understand how this works. It's a position that is not, you know, if you don't actually know these things, then that is not the correct, like, attitude to have, even if, you know, something seems ridiculous on its face. But then, on the contrary, I understand the other arguments. Like, I'd like to live in a society where I can just dismiss certain things, because, to go back to the previous point, is like, all of this takes time. It takes time to learn, it takes time to verify things. It is often difficult. You've got, you know, there's a bunch of bunch of effort that is required of you to actually get it done. So then, therefore, I would like to be able to do certain things, say just, okay, I'm not, like, this is obviously ridiculous, right? It's like, I'd like to have a certain level of established knowledge that allows me to have a certain footing in the world, despite not having a full understanding of it, because the amount of time is just too ridiculous, and I can't have a full understanding, and nobody really can have a full understanding of everything, because incredible amounts of complexity beyond what humans can, the human mind can actually process. So therefore, like with this runaway complexity, right, you've got Is there something over there? I don't remember. I never remember this. Is there something here? No, there's no secret. It's just this other piece thing. Okay. So I think the reason why it annoys me in particular is because it leads to very, very frustrating like interactions and conversations in terms of any subject you want to talk about, but it has like a certain stigma attached to it where there's a socially correct opinion to hold. Then it's very hard to actually, like, people will end up paying attention very much to the social aspect and not being out of line. And it's not, I don't even know if it's very conscious. I think it's just something that people normally do, and if you don't consciously realize it and correct for it, then you don't really, then you will be doing it. It's like, okay, you know, I understand that the concept is ridiculous, right? But if we want to talk about it, and if we want to actually arrive at a better understanding of reality, and we want to have better ideas, then it is important for us to actually take the idea seriously, right? And it's like, it's if you see a flat Earth debunk video, there's going to be a significant difference in terms of quality and ability to actual value if the debunk is actually explaining all the concepts that mean the Earth is round and not flat, as opposed to people who like pose a certain argument smugly and just don't take the opposition seriously because, like, oh, it's obvious on its face, ridiculous. It's like, okay, but how are you certain that none of what you actually believe is flat out on its face ridiculous, despite, like, it might be socially acceptable and people might generally believe in it by default, but that doesn't mean things are not, like, something is not ridiculous and stupid. There's certainly examples of entire nations or like entire cultures embracing some kind of nonsense for like various reasons, because of the perceived benefit. It's like, I think I think a big part of why I dislike it is because when you try to talk about things like that, you're kind of put at a default disadvantage, because it's effectively, I think what I'm kind of getting at is like the whole reason for why there's such a thing as, like, oh, we would like to avoid guilt by association and other like fallacies and general ideas. It's like, okay, if you don't actually Like, there's certain principles and there's certain ideas and there's certain positions in which if you don't proactively work with the person that is trying to convince you of something or trying to relay some kind of information to you, if you don't actively work with that and you don't actively support it, then you can very easily, like, the other person will basically be in an indefensible position. Not because it is actually indefensible, but because there's no certain, sorry for the Windows sounds, certain rhetorical concepts are very, very effective on people who are not consciously aware of them. And, you know, the appeal to obvious ridiculousness of certain things is, I think, a very pertinent issue and very pertinent kind of like, it's something that people fall into and without at all realizing what is happening, and that it is a problem. It's like, if you how do I pose this once again? I think I can go up there. It's a kind of trap in thinking, where this is very easy, because it's like even if it's very easy to kind of default to just the it's very easy to miss your biases when you think something's obvious. Because that you think that something is obvious is in itself a form of like that's something that in a way like should raise some kind of flag for you. Like, not necessarily, it's like it's not wrong to think of like certain things are obvious, because, well, it's like you're not gonna pretend that 2 + 2 is an unbelievably complex issue and you I can just barely comprehend it, right? You won't, like, that's not something that makes sense to do, but oops, did not rescue that. It's like, no, 2 + 2 is not super complex, and I can claim that it is obvious, and that's not a problem, but very rarely is the complexity of real-world issues and problems on the same level as 2 + 2, where you can just confidently and easily and confidently claim that this is like something that's like obvious. This is something obvious and you should just understand it. Because I'm like kind of continuously orbiting around the fact and around the idea that you generally want to this is different from because there's absolutely value and it's absolutely a good idea to avoid and not waste your time on bad actors, right? If somebody is a bad actor and somebody is like trying to use your benefit of the doubt and your like rescuing of his argument against you, then like sure, disengage, right? Like there's nothing wrong with disengaging from people who are disingenuous. But then on the other hand, you've got like there's a problem if you take somebody's position to be like disingenuous by default, kind of, because it just is because it seems ridiculous to you. Oops. Can't see my character. Unlucky. Okay. I don't know if there's anything very concrete I'm getting at. It's expressing a frustration I've come into as I've tried to argue, because I think especially in the era of entertainment, everything is entertainment, right? Because you have political discussions as entertainment, you have like even discussions, a lot of shows that are sort of like they're framed around discussions. It's like we're gonna take these ideas and respond to them, and we're gonna foster discussion, and we'd like to think about certain things. It's very easy for those to be... Sorry, Windows, my Windows. I don't... There's like my USB hub is just disconnecting randomly. I don't know why it's doing that. Sorry. It's my bad. I'll try to stop it. It's very easy to... It's because I'm still writing kind of a response to someone, and I'm like from that experiencing firsthand how difficult it is to actually put things together into a response if you want to go beyond actually just responding. It's like if you just want to pause point by point, and you know, it's something I do watch a bunch of, and I enjoy the format, and it's fun often as background noise or otherwise, but I think it's ultimately it's not a great format if you want to actually foster discussion, because generally just ad hoc discussion live on air, and it's kind of ironic considering I'm, well, ironic or just case in point, I guess, where I'm just forming my thoughts on the fly. So if I actually were to take this and structure it into something that is a more full collection of thoughts, and it's more arranged and it makes more sense in a way, it like is structurally better and it's not rambling and I don't lose my train of thought, etc, etc. So kind of I waste less time on the part of the listener as well. It's like that would take more of an investment from me in terms of time, and if I wanted to pose a really good argument to my own perfectionistic standards, then I'd have to spend a hell of a lot of time on it in order to actually figure the ideas out to the degree where I can actually accomplish that. Oops, you can skip this if you are not stupid. It's like the format of doing it live, it's I understand why, and I am doing it myself, but then on the other hand, I think on a certain level, there's an argument to be made that no discussion and no just completely not going into certain topics at all is actually better than discussion which appears to be kind of philosophical and thoughtful, but isn't. Because the idea of just not touching certain things, and it's like, okay, I don't know, I don't have an opinion on this, I think it's better, it makes more sense. Because in a world where things are incredibly complex and it's incredibly difficult to actually understand them, I think it's a more honest position to say that, oh, I don't understand, I don't know, I don't have an opinion. Or I think it's kind of also normal and good to leave a lot more things with it depends, and like I'm not sure about this, or it's like this pulls me in one direction and this pulls me in another, and I like don't I don't quite fully I can't quite fully reconcile the two ideas, because they are not, like, I don't know how to establish like a framework that would reliably describe the complexity of the situation. And it's something that particularly frustrates me, because a lot of the time I'll be listening to someone confidently state things. It's like, it's obviously this, or it's obviously that, or it obviously works like this, or that's just how this is, etc, etc. And I'm like, okay, but I have about 7 questions I'd like to ask you to really test if that's really that obvious and it really just works like that and it really is like this. And I can't ask really any of them because I'm not on the panel or whatever. I can't actually ask the question. And then it like, upon a second thought, it baffles me that you, Mr. I have smart opinions and I'm smarter than the people I'm responding to. At least, well, that you could say that's ad hominem. But it's like, that's the tone, kind of, you present. Then it's a question of, it's like, why do you not ask these questions, right? It's like, why is this not part of your thinking, at least? Why isn't this expressed in any way? It's like, I guess maybe it's more entertaining if you have answers rather than, you know, kind of questions which you are unsure about. Perhaps that's a factor, because you know, it's certainly more entertaining to have some guy that is just very mad and then he just points out and slams the other person. And it's like SJW's BTFO compilation or whatever, right? Like, there's entertainment value to that, but then over time I kind of get the shtick, and I'm actually very starved of. I'm very starved of asking more questions and leaving things unanswered, or answered in a way that isn't a satisfying extreme or like fully realized position, because to a certain degree I think really a lot of the things that we do in life are things we do ad hoc, and we basically, in a certain situation, we have circumstances and we have goals, and we have certain ideas on how to proceed, and we have a certain idea of how to check if it works or not. And then a huge amount of that is actually, it's not actually going to be solving general problems. It's not solving the abstract idea of this problem, and then, you know, you solve the class of problem forever and then you don't have to deal with it anymore. It's much more solving, how do I phrase this? It's solving a particular problem. It's solving this problem right in front of me, right? And then from that, I learn from it, and then the next similar problem or like other problems I solve are going to be better solved. But the solution, in a way, the solution to those problems is my mind is the solution, right? It's not literally a solution, but it's something that I can use to solve future problems. Right, it's the universal solution isn't actually a solution, it's actually that I have a brain and I have certain things I've trained into myself, and I have certain abilities and skills, and I have certain ways of thinking and talking about it and comprehending and noting it down, etc. That is much more universal than most solutions I can come up with. And I will bring code into this because it's a similar thing that I've been thinking about before, where I've noticed over time, because like, there was like, of course, like initial period of I don't understand really what I'm doing, but then after I started understanding what I'm doing more, I would do a lot of solutions that were quite complex. It's like you could write a config file like this and it would let you do things A, B, and C, and it would work pretty well, and would abstract things into something that's simple to use, with the kind of asterisk that if you wanted to do something that was not covered by that, then you suddenly either had to expand the mechanism and it became very complex, or you had to like kind of hard code it and undo all the abstraction that was kind of built, the mechanism was kind of built on, because you couldn't really expand it very well on its own. And after a bit of time thinking about that and realizing it, I came to the conclusion that I'm basically reinventing a programming language inside of my own project, but I'm making like mini programming languages, because I'm trying to have a config file that can do a lot of things, and then it turns out that config file is effectively just coding. So then the next step I kind of went with is, okay, so if this is if this is a config file and I'm trying to emulate code, well then let's, instead of writing config files and certain things, let's actually make the abstraction in a way where I can keep using the programming language to interact with the abstraction. So then the part that can be handled by the abstraction is handled by the abstraction, and then the part that can't, like doesn't lend itself well to being handled by a common abstraction, well that is just coded directly in the programming language. And then there's no expanding the abstraction into a concrete exception is fairly easy, because it's all in the programming language, and it has available the capabilities that the language has. And I completely and entirely forgot why I was even on this point. Should have seen this coming. Oh, the idea being that if you have a solution that is if you are coming up with solutions and you're doing things, then this is very similar to what I'm talking about with programming, where you don't want to necessarily have the solution to everything, or like have a universal solution to every situation. It's more you want to have the ability to solve problems in general, and then apply it to the particular situations you find yourself in as you go. And it's like plan, but plan for concrete things. So I want to do X, Y, and Z. And it could be long-term, like this is not to diminish long-term planning, but long-term planning, still concrete, right? Like you're still doing something, and you just have a very long time frame, as opposed to trying to come up with some general plan for whatever. Like, no, the plan is not general. You plan and you figure things out for the thing you are doing. Because otherwise, and I've certainly been there, otherwise you can easily get lost in abstraction. Like you sit down and you try to come up with a solution to everything, and that uses up a lot of time and doesn't actually have any results that are particularly good, because there's no universal solution to everything. And you end up actually putting in more work, because turns out after you make the universal solution, it needs to be modified and applied to a particular case anyway, and then all the things that you would just be doing you have to do anyway, but now you have like this whole unwieldy complex system that dictates how you can and can't do certain things, because you can't swiftly modify a complex system that a lot of other things depend on. So if you build your system in such a way that you have these complexities, and you have a lot of other components that depend upon those complexities, then you've tied yourself into a kind of knot that will not easily be undone. That is interesting as a general concept. Why? So in a way, I think about this similarly with advice or other ways of like saying, it's okay, what can I say to this person that'll help them as well? Yeah, actually, like, there's a lot. On one hand, there's a lot. I understand just how much I don't see about the situation, right? Because I realize that life is complex, and the situations people have, so the same as my situation, right? It's I would have to go into incredible amounts of depth and share incredible amounts of information, and to convey to someone, to try and convey to someone the context I come from, and then that would be also very difficult for those people to grasp anyway, because it's like, well, there's not everything can be easily expressed in words, and then B, I am not necessarily a reliable narrator, so then like, you don't really know if what I am saying is all that accurate, or you might be missing the biases that I've missed. Now you, like, if you take what I say to be more real than it actually is, then the advice you offer me doesn't even come from the perspective of actual accurate reality and actual good information to have, but rather it would be good information if I was in the situation I described. But through the error, I know I've described a different situation from my actual situation. So how useful, like the very general advice then will probably still be useful, but if it's more specific, then there's a loss. The loss of precision is incredible in terms of in terms of just what happens when you rely on just one person, or like on the interested party. I don't know, it's because I am kind of continuously circling around the idea of opening, kind of having the kind of vertigo and vertigo feeling and uneasiness and like anxiety in a way. I don't know if I'm using the word correctly, but it's like when you gaze into the void, right? This is not a void necessarily. This is complexity, right? So it's quite the opposite of the void, because it's an incredible amount of things that are tied together in a lot of different ways. So when you have that, when you look at that, there's like a feeling of just I sometimes describe it as looking at an impossibly huge mountain. It's like nothing like you've scaled before, and in fact you don't even see the mountain. You see a slope. You're Sisyphus in this example, I guess. You see a gigantic slope and it never ends. Which I guess in this is not an accurate comparison, because Sisyphus does see the end, he just can't get there. But here you don't see the end of you don't see the end of the complexity, because like it's obviously finite. If you take a complex issue, it usually has a finite number of components. Like it's comprehensible and well, you could easily make an argument that society, for example, made out of millions of people, is not very actually comprehensible, but like on a base level you can probably comprehend it. There's a lot of people and they have certain wants and needs. But then that is not what is the incomprehensible part. Like scope, incomprehensible scope is one of the, or one part of it, but the complexity isn't necessarily introduced by a scope, because you can have very big things that are not very complex. But what you can't really have, like what complexity, like complexity is in relationships. It's funny to put it like that, because very much in terms of like solving problems with humans, it do be relationships that cause a lot more problems often than physical things. But like the complexity is because a lot of things interact with a lot of other things, and then becomes very difficult to predict what is going to happen and what the elements, like how the elements will interplay with each other to arrive at some kind of final result, which you don't know in advance what it's going to be. So then that complexity is a different kind of incomprehensible. It's not, in a way, because the title is Window into Infinity, but in a way, complexity is not really infinity. It's, I don't know, there's like certain either toys or puzzles where you you rearrange things. I think this is a good example of complexity that's very like almost tangible. Because there's a lot of puzzles that are effectively little complexity machines, I'd say, where, I don't know, imagine you have like 3 buttons, or like a row of buttons, and then when you click the button, it like lights up, and then some or all of the buttons, when you click on them, they also toggle the state of the buttons next to them. It's like, I think, a very fundamental idea of complexity. It's like the scope is very, very finite, because the scope is just the number of buttons that you have and the state of these buttons. But then the complexity comes because these buttons are attached together they have relationships. So like if I toggle this button, I also toggle the state of these buttons. Right, and the puzzle is solved when you turn all the buttons on effectively. So you want to figure out how the system actually works to the degree where you can actually manipulate it into the state that you want it to be in. And so that is comprehensible complexity, right? But even then, still, depending on how complex the relationships actually are, you might have the feeling of this kind of runaway complexity where you start clicking the buttons, and because like they don't do quite what you want them to do, and you just can't quite get the one light to actually turn on without messing up the rest of the things you have set up. And you can have a local maximum, right, where you've lit all but one of the lights, and now you like desperately click around trying to find the combination. But the actual solution requires you to kind of destroy what you've built so far and rebuild it in a way that is going to be to actually lead you to a full solution, because you just can't incrementally improve out of a local maximum without taking a little step back in a way, and taking a little hit in your progress. And so even then, like you could experience the feeling of this complexity, this overwhelming complexity, where there's a little bit of a panic and there's a little bit of a just no, this is not possible to understand. And then imagine you like take this puzzle with the lights and with the relationships between toggling the lights, and then expand that to millions or billions. And then, like, if that wasn't incomprehensibly complex enough already, then imagine instead of lights you have human beings, you have people with the motivations, with the feelings, with the thinking, with the values, etc. And then you try to, in a way, affect what these people do and how they think, and what decisions they take, and what is important to them. And then once you imagine that, then realize that this is the level of complexity that you are talking about when you're talking about politics. Effectively. Right? And I understand there's caveats and asterisks to this, but for the point I'm currently making, like, this is what politics fundamentally is. Because you have millions of people in a country, right? And that's not even that's discounting like geopolitics and the whole world. It's like you have millions of people in a country, and then those people have the needs and wants and ideas, and it clashes against each other and settles into some kinds of solutions, better or worse, and then that is enacted in reality, and it has a kind of feedback loop where it affects the people that were doing it in the first place, so they have some kind of so then they change their behavior based on the things that have changed, right? And it's like, granted, you know, you can operate on a lot of this with statistics, where because you understand what people generally do, and you can kind of approximate. It's like, oh, this percentage of people will do that, this percentage will do this, as like, probably we can expect that kind of popularity for this issue or for this idea, etc, etc. Oh, I'm kind of screwed myself with not having the required energy or something. Yeah, the point is that this is a system you exist in a system this complex, whether you think about it or not. But then it seems like for a lot of people, and this is going back to the talking about things way more confidently than you actually know for and you actually can support. It's I think this is maybe I've gotten myself through to the actual underlying idea and problem I'm having behind the attitude that annoys me so much. It's because this is the actual real complexity of the problem you're dealing with is on this level. It's this hard, it's this difficult. Right, you are talking about problems that are this complex, right? You are on a planet that's absolutely gigantic with amounts of resources and interacting system and different like beings, humans and animals. The number of which and the relationships between which are like incomprehensibly complex. To the point where, you know, it becomes very uncomfortable to try and comprehend the entirety of it because of just how complex it is. And then you take that and you just confidently state that things are a certain way, where it's like you don't know that. You do not. You are not respecting, right? You are not appreciating the value, or you are not noticing the truth of the complexity of the situation. It's like, I understand on one hand that, you know, gatekeeping is important and you want people to have certain investment, etc. And all of that, in fact, actually stems from the complexity, because you have to wrangle it somehow. But I think when it comes to the matter of attitude, it's about honesty, it's about truth. It's whether we even with those solutions, right? It's like, okay, it's gatekeeping. It's like we are allowing certain people to, we are putting more weight on the what certain people say versus what others say, and we value certain things like experience and if you invested time or not, and if you have results, and if you can do certain things, and we test things, and we have credentials in order to prove that you are competent at something. So in this whole process, you, even with all of that, and it is all important, and there's reasons for all of it to be in place and helpful to people. Like, even with all of that, the correct attitude is like, you know, I know that I know nothing. It's not literally I know nothing, but it's like I'm still keenly aware that even if I'm at a high level in any given field and I understand a lot, I'm inherently limited in my perception, in a way. And then the claims I am making, it's like with a scientific study, right? We have this paper and we made these observations and we did it like that. And then the conclusion and the kind of like the things you draw from all that research is kind of like one small section. It's one small section of the conclusion, but the most valuable thing is actually all the information that is in the middle of the paper, not the conclusion, because that, you know, you can actually interpret things in a lot of ways and you can point out the problems, but the most valuable part is the middle, where somebody reports, oh, we did that and we expected this result, but we got this result, and like from that we were curious, like, is it affected by A? Is it affected by B? So we did further testing in order to try and support or disqualify one of these, and then we figured it's like A or B. It's actually B, right? We figured that out. And it's like you can have a different conclusion at the end. You can probably, like, maybe it later expands into something that's more full. Maybe like a missing bit of the picture is shown that fills it out better and makes you, whoops, wrong button, makes you appreciate that. I lost my thought. So yeah, the correct attitude is, on one hand, it's humility, where you really want to be able to face reality, that no, we don't actually, like, we know a bunch of things, but on the other hand, we also do not know a lot. There's a lot that we don't know. There's a lot that is actually not set in stone and certain, but it's actually up to interpretation and up to questions being asked and up to thinking in many different ways about it. There's this curiosity that in people that I feel like is really missing a lot of the time. Where I can admit myself I'm probably going too far in the other direction, where I doubt things that you don't really need to doubt, and I kinda am skeptical of and cynical about a lot of things, kinda because of that, because I question everything to probably a too big of a degree. And there's certainly a happy medium to be struck. But I find it important to think about these things and to consider that, yes, you know, it's like I could be wrong actually. And it's like this attitude of very smug condescension or like appeal to obviousness is something that I'd like to watch out for, and I'd like to actually not do. I'd very much like to not appeal to obviousness. I'd much rather, and this is a difficult path because it takes you onto onto a journey of trying to spell out the obvious, right? And trying to give people reasons for things that they just intuitively know you should do. Or maybe that they intuitively know that they are good. But then I think there's no other road to actually achieving the good. Because if you don't have the understanding, and if you don't have it spelled out, and if you don't cultivate the understanding of these ideas, then you end up with empty gestures. Because you're not doing the actual thing behind the gesture, and you're not doing the reason for the gesture. You are instead just acting the thing that's happened before. Because it happened before, not because you understand why it happened and what the reason behind it was. It's like you are effectively LARPing, right? Live action roleplay. And the actual meaning of the word, not whatever the internet nowadays thinks that means. A completely unrelated note, man, this game's beautiful. Like, I feel... I think what I'd say, because, you know, now it's kind of, in a way, like I'm going over the starting area over and over again. Because I keep dying, because I'm not focusing on the game all that much, I'm more focused on talking. And I associate the game with talking a lot now, right? Because I've done a bunch of streams where I just, if I want to think about things, and if I want to say some stuff and get it out there in a way to actually hear myself how it sounds, try to form this into something comprehensible, and then get maybe some feedback. Somebody shows up in the chat / comments, right? It's like a little bit of rest, you know? It's a little bit of rest, because normally the wrestling with complexity, and especially considering what I was talking about, complexity as coming from the relationships between things as opposed to the sheer, like, more than the scope of things. It's like, well, if we have a incredible communication tool that allows us to communicate with anyone on the planet instantly at any time, that surely increases the complexity of the world, right? Because it introduces more relationships, and it makes it so now you are in interaction. You're not isolated anymore, really. This is like one of the very fundamental ideas of dealing with complexity is divide and conquer, right? You split the complex issue into little compartmentalized, because it's compartmentalized bits that each do one thing. It's like, in programming it's called the single responsibility principle. The idea is that you split your big complex system / problem into small components, each of which is responsible for one thing. It's like, there's exceptions, but you generally try to split it up into bits, because that allows you to actually wrangle the complexity a little better, because each component is pretty much comprehensible. And then when you zoom out from these small components, you have a level, you also have a lesser level of complexity, because you can now not think about what's inside the component, just how the components interact. And it's like, but this can't happen if you have an application that's, or like a system really, because it doesn't necessarily have to be an application. If you have a system that is inherently complex, because it has a lot of components that all interact with one another, then you can't really skip out on handling and wrangling and understanding the complexity. If you're designing an application which is very dynamic and you can customize a lot of things, and they can be different in different places, in different orders, and they can be like mixed and matched and loaded at different times, and it's asynchronous, so it's not all in the same order every time when it's loading, etc. Then you are just building an application. Like, you might ask the questions like, do the users actually need all this functionality? But then if the answer is yes, this is the value that I'm providing to people with this application, then you are just solving a complex problem that is complex not because you failed to because you introduced complexity when you tried to solve the problem, but rather because the problem is inherently complex. And so because the problem is inherently complex, it requires a complex solution. You're not gonna get away with a simple solution to a complex problem. You only, you can make the solution as simple as possible, but how simple is as simple as possible depends on the inherent complexity of the problem that you are solving, as opposed to I don't know where I was going with that, as opposed to what. Wait, I'm just gonna be collecting an energy crystal down there. I don't need to do that. Oops. Oh, I was low health? Oh, and I clicked the wrong button. Excellent. Gameplay so good, the man can't even click the respawn button properly. Impressive. It's like, man, I'm just generally somewhat tired, because it's also another aspect of this complexity and kind of wrestling with it, is that it becomes a little complex. It becomes a little difficult sometimes to talk to people about stuff like this, because like, as you see, I've been rambling for however many minutes it's been going on, for an hour and 7 minutes apparently. I've been kind of trying to ramble and rely my thoughts on this thing, and I'm surely not even, like, I don't even have the fully formed opinion and perspective, and I didn't quite explain myself to, like, super well. Like, to a certain degree, I have talked about things that I'm thinking, but it's like it takes a long time, and then because it's difficult to actually comprehend, because it's complex effectively, then I lose people. It's like, if the conversation can even start, because that is sometimes a problem. And the second question becomes, are we, like, what's the actual level of complexity we are going to be able to touch upon in terms of this? And it can get lonely where you start grappling with complexity. It can get lonely easily, because to a lot of people this is philosophizing, which I mean, I agree. In this particular moment, I'm certainly philosophizing and talking about very abstract and general subjects, but then this translates into actual, real, tangible issues. There's actual problems that happen where you actually do have a certain level of complexity of problem, and then you have someone that doesn't accept that. That is, like, unable to comprehend that we are talking about a complex issue, and this issue will not it's impossible to solve it. This is a complex issue, and so it's not possible to solve this complex issue with a solution that is actually as simple as you want it to be. It's like, no, it's like, oh, I don't want to hear all this philosophizing. I'd like just a solution that works, and like there's no need to make it this complicated. It's like, no. You may say that, but then I'm looking at the issue, right? I've mapped it out. I've made, like, put it on a diagram in order to map out what the components are and what the relationship between them is. It's like, no, this issue is actually difficult. It's actually complex. It actually can't be solved with a solution as simple as you're requesting. Which then, if the person you're talking to is not very humble about it, you can easily end up with accusations of you not being humble, because it's like, oh, you're suddenly so smart that you know all these solutions, right? And you know how it should be done. Oh, so smart, huh? It's like, well, I mean, sometimes I've done things, and sometimes I understand things, and sometimes it is that I have a solution to a problem. So in fact, would be fake humility for me to think that I have nothing to say and that I have, like, that I don't have experience and I don't have, like, a track record of being able to solve this kind of problem and have good outcomes. And it's not a guarantee, but it's certainly something that qualifies me to speak on the subject. Because ultimately it's about increasing the probability that the solution we choose is actually going to function and fulfill what we need it to. And then the people that have already done it and have thought of it and have solved similar problems before, well, it's more likely than that guy knows how to solve it if he's already solved something like it. I don't know where I was going with that. My mind's very scattered. I'm doing, as per usual, I've managed to get myself more busy. In a way, it's for a good cause, in a way, not charitable cause, but a good cause nonetheless. But it's still more work and more complexity in order to manage. So I don't know, it's it does generally sometimes make me feel completely insane, or like feel like I'm going insane, where I have these thoughts and it's like, okay, like how do I punch it and express it into something that I can actually, I don't know. How do I express it is probably a good, well, that's probably a good place to put a full stop in that sentence. How do I express it? How do I figure it out? What do I do? And it's interesting, an interesting thought like popped up on my feed on YouTube is whether you've got, it's like it's better to be cringe than to be silent, which I think is a good sentiment. The game just crashed. No, I clicked on the other monitor apparently. That was shocking. You can just do that actually, you can just click on the other monitor, you can mouse out of the game. How did I never do it before? I have no idea. It's like, yeah, it's better to be cringe than completely silent. The point being that, you know, just like I'm trying now, right? I'm expressing some thoughts that I've certainly not. This is certainly not cleaned up, and it's certainly not super comprehensible, and it's not like mega polished and I didn't remove all the unnecessary pauses for thinking, and I'm repeating myself certainly, and I'm very tired, so I'm probably not speaking as clearly as I could be, etc, etc, but then I'm still getting these thoughts out there because it's ultimately, I think, better for me to actually say that than it is say these things and kind of try it out, try out the ideas, and move my own thinking a little bit forward than it would be to just leave it be because, well, it's not perfect, or maybe some things in there are obvious to people, or maybe it all is obvious to people. So, well, if it's obvious, then I guess okay, sure. Like, I'm certain it wasn't obvious to me, in a way, and that is something to keep in mind as well, right? Because I've a lot of these thoughts and ideas have been kind of circling around my head for a while, so I'm in a way used to talking about them, and used to understanding them, and used to having the words and expressing them in some kind of way. But I think for a lot of people, this same sentiment can be on a more subconscious level, where you don't really think about it, but there's a certain feeling or a certain mood or atmosphere that you kind of can relate to. And then if I share what I've been able to put into words so far, and kind of figure out and put together, then that might be of use to someone who doesn't quite have the words or hasn't heard it said a certain way. It's like, point being, I'm trying to convince myself that there's more the point to this than just venting. I think. Maybe there is, I don't quite know how to... I don't quite know how to estimate it, to be honest, and I don't know if it's even possible to estimate. I don't know, I think this is a good stopping point, because I'm rapidly falling asleep. I've gotten, I think, I've gotten what I wanted to get out of my system. And yeah, it's about time to go to bed, get some sleep, get some energy for tomorrow, because it's another work day. And then return whenever I have more thoughts about things and or I feel like I'm going completely insane. Like one of these reasons. And also, if I go, like, this game is so beautiful, man. I love the music. I love the art. The art style. I love the attention to detail. I love the gameplay, how well it's crafted. Because it's not style over substance, it's very much style style added on top of substance. It's just gorgeous. Pure rest, I don't know. I love this game, man. Alright, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching, listening to the rambling. See you next time, I guess, because surely next one's gonna happen, right? I don't die tomorrow. I actually wake up. Yes, please.